What if you found out? The boy standing at your gate wasn't just another lost child, but the brother your family never told you existed. What if your mother believed for 12 years that one of her twins died in childbirth, only to realize she was lied to by the man she trusted most? And what happens when the forgotten son comes home? This is the story of Elias Blake, a boy raised in the shadows, surviving foster homes, streets, and silence, and Noah Whitaker, a boy raised in wealth, love, and luxury, never knowing half of him was missing. What happens when these two lives collide? Who stole their connection can trust be rebuilt? After a betrayal so deep it fractured an entire childhood, and in a world obsessed with image, what does family really mean? Stay with us as we journey through a story of hidden truths, shattered illusions, quiet courage, and the unbreakable bond between brothers separated by lies, but reunited by fate. If this story moves you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Now let's begin. The party lights flickered behind the grand glass doors of the Whitaker Estates banquet hall. Inside, laughter spilled across marble floors, champagne flutes clinked, and classical pianos swirled into the air. It was Wesley Whitaker's birthday. CEO of Whitaker Global Holdings, father, husband, self-made man, or so everyone believed. But 12-year-old Noah Whitaker didn't care about the suits or the speeches. He stood just outside the glittering chaos, his breath misting in the cool dusk air. The collar of his finely tailored blazer itched, and the smile his mother had pinned to his face an hour ago had long faded. He needed air, real air, not the kind that floated over overpriced caviar and plastic compliments. Noah walked toward the edge of the parking lot where the stone pavers gave way to cracked pavement, just past the iron fence. The alley behind the venue stretched into dimness. The noise from the party dulled to a low hum. Then he saw him. A boy about his age was kneeling beside a rusted trash bin. His clothes hung off him in tatters, sleeves stained, jeans torn at the knees. His hands moved quickly, sorting through discarded containers and bags, every motion cautious, like he was used to being chased away. Noah blinked. The boy turned slightly. For a moment, their eyes locked. Noah froze. Same almond-shaped blue eyes, same angular cheekbones, same wild sweep of blonde hair. Even the way he furrowed his brows, it was like looking into a mirror warped by time and suffering. The boy froze too. They stared, unblinking. It was as if time dropped away, like the alley had swallowed the rest of the world and left just the two of them. For one brief moment, there was no noise, no party, no city, just the terrifying, inexplicable recognition in their faces. Noah took a step forward. "Hey." The boy jolted upright like a startled deer. His hands clenched. His legs twitched. "No. Wait, please," Noah said gently, raising both hands. "I'm not going to hurt you." But the boy was already backing away. His eyes, so much like Noah's, were sharp with fear, not wonder. Noah could see the hesitation in the boy's body. One foot toward him, one foot ready to run. Noah spoke again. I don't understand. We look exactly the same." The boy stood still for a heartbeat. Then he turned and ran fast. Quiet. Practiced. Noah dashed forward and calling after him, "Wait, please don't go." But the boy vanished into the alley, swallowed by shadows before Noah could even catch the sound of his footsteps. He stood there, panting, stunned. The silence rushed in all at once except for the slow, rhythmic thudding of his heartbeat in his ears. Footsteps behind him. Noah. It was Celeste, his mother. Her heels clacked softly against the stone. There you are. You scared me. Noah turned to her, his thoughts still spinning. He wanted to speak to tell her everything, but the words wouldn't line up. I just came out to breathe, he said, his voice thin. Celeste gently pulled him into a hug, adjusting his lapel. Sweetheart, you shouldn't wander off like that. Come on. It's your father's special night. Let's go inside. He nodded, but as she led him back toward the lights and laughter, Noah looked over his shoulder, staring down the alley one last time. And for the first time in his young life, he wasn't sure who he was anymore. Back inside, the room burst into cheers as Wesley raised a glass. Photographers snapped shots of the powerful Whitaker family father, mother, and son standing in matching elegance beneath the chandelier. Noah's smile was hollow. His body was present. His mind was in that alley. Back there was a boy just like him, living a life completely opposite, in rags, hungry, alone. Why, who was he? How could this be possible? That night, Noah lay in his bed staring at the ceiling, the sound of the city humming beyond the windows of his high-rise bedroom. His room was filled with everything a boy could want: game consoles, a telescope, books lined in color-coded rows. But Noah felt incomplete. The boy's face wouldn't leave him. His voice echoed in Noah's head, though he hadn't said much at all. There was something in the silence that said more than words could. And there was one thought that looped endlessly in Noah's mind. He looked like me. He could be me. Was that boy his twin? Oh, stranger? A figment of his imagination? Or something far more important? In a worn-down part of the city, under a flickering street lamp, the same boy Elias Blake curled beneath an old tarp and newspaper. He hadn't eaten that day. He shivered under the night air. But for the first time in a long while, his mind wasn't on food or cold. He was thinking about a boy who looked just like him, a boy who didn't run, a boy who offered his hand instead of pulling it away. Rich kid, Elias muttered to himself, but he didn't look down on me. His voice cracked. He didn't know why that bothered him so much. He stared at the stars through the holes in the tarp and wondered, will I ever see him again? Celeste Whitaker had always been a light sleeper. Even before Noah was born, before she became the CEO of a billion-dollar beauty empire, sleep had always been fragile, something that came only after long stretches of thinking, organizing, planning. But tonight, as she turned for the third time beneath the silk sheets, something deeper stirred inside her. It wasn't anxiety about the business. It wasn't tomorrow's board meeting. It wasn't even the guilt she always carried over never being home quite enough for Noah. It was something else, something older, something buried. The dream started the same way it always did. She was lying on a delivery table, drenched in sweat and panic, the cold lights of the hospital blinding her. Her body was trembling, torn between agony and anticipation. She heard the first cry, a sharp, beautiful sound that pierced the noise and landed straight in her heart. She smiled through the pain. It's a boy, someone said. She remembered the weight of him, the warmth, the miracle. But then another wave of pain, another contraction. Her eyes had gone wide in the dream. There's another. She knew. She had always known. Then, movement, shadows, a nurse whispering to a man, a cry she almost heard, but not quite, and then emptiness. Hands took something away. She screamed, but no sound came. The light in the room flickered, then black. Celeste sat up in bed with a gasp, her chest heaving, skin clammy, her hand instinctively pressed to her abdomen, as if confirming that the children were no longer inside her. just like always. It was just a dream, but it didn't feel like one. Not this time. From beside her, Wesley stirred with an irritated groan. Again, she didn't answer right away. She touched her face and felt wetness beneath her eyes. She hadn't even realized she was crying. "It's always the same," she whispered, almost to herself. Wesley propped himself on one elbow, his voice tight. "Celeste, you haven't had that dream in years." "That doesn't mean it's gone," she murmured. "It means I've stopped trying to remember." Wesley sighed and rubbed his face. "You need to stop torturing yourself over this. You were pregnant with one child." "One." "No." Her voice cracked. "I felt two. Back then. I told you. I remember lying in bed and saying, 'There are two hearts beating.'" "That's normal," he said quickly, brushing her off. "Lots of mothers feel strange things during pregnancy." Celeste didn't speak. She reached over to the nightstand and took a sip of water. Her hands were still shaking. "I'm not crazy, Wesley," she said softly. "What if something happened that night? What if something was taken from me?" Wesley's jaw tensed. "Don't start this again. I can't stop." She snapped suddenly. "I try. I work. I run meetings. I raise Noah. But at night, when everything is quiet, it comes back. That absence, that silence in the delivery room, that feeling in my gut that someone lied to me." Wesley turned his head away, staring at the wall. His voice, when he finally spoke again, was low and strained. "We've been through this. You had postpartum depression, trauma, exhaustion. You were sedated during the surgery. You weren't thinking clearly. I was lucid before they wheeled me in. You're remembering wrong. No, I'm remembering too well." Wesley got out of bed. Celeste watched him pace across the room, his silhouette long in the moonlight. She studied the man she had once trusted with her entire world. He ran his hand over his short, graying hair and exhaled through his nose, forcing calm. "You need help," he said at last. "Talk to Dr. Ames again, or take something to help you sleep. But you can't keep waking up in the middle of the night convinced you had twins. It's not healthy for you, or for Noah." At the mention of her son's name, her heart clenched. Noah, her miracle child, the boy who had saved her from herself. And yet, she swallowed hard, he always looked like more than just one person. She whispered. Wesley turned to her. "What does that even mean?" She didn't respond. He stared at her for a long moment. Then, without another word, he turned and left the room. Downstairs, Wesley closed his office door behind him, locking it, even though it was nearly 3 a.m. He pulled out his phone with shaky hands and dialed a number without looking. It rang only once. "Veronica," he said. A pause. "She's having the dreams again. More vivid this time." A sigh came through the line. She mentioned the operating room. The second cry. "She's remembering details." Another pause. "No, not yet. But I don't know how much longer I can convince her she's crazy." His fingers tapped anxiously on the desk. "Yes. I'm keeping an eye on the boy, too. He's getting suspicious. Quiet. Observant, just like her." He looked out of the window toward the city skyline. "I'll come see you tomorrow. We need to talk about how to finally bury this before it destroys everything." He ended the call without goodbye. Back upstairs, Celeste sat in the dark, the blankets tangled around her legs, heart still thudding from the dream. She didn't know what she feared more, that she was losing her mind, or that she wasn't. Because if the dream was real, where was her other child? Noah's pen hadn't moved in 15 minutes. His history worksheet sat untouched on his desk, the questions blurry from how many times he had read them without processing a single word. Around him, the sounds of middle school chairs scraping, pencils tapping, kids whispering buzzed like static. But all Noah could see was that face. That boy's face. His own face. He blinked again, forcing his eyes to the page, only to draw a shaky line through the margin. A gentle nudge tapped his elbow. Noah turned his head. Maya Chan, his best friend since second grade, raised an eyebrow at him from her desk beside his. "What's going on?" she mouthed silently. He shook his head, lips pressed tight. She didn't buy it. Maya never did. At lunch, she followed him to their usual table under the oak tree by the soccer field. Most of the boys sat on the other side of the yard, kicking a ball and yelling over each other. Maya preferred the quiet. So did Noah. Except today, quiet wasn't helping. She peeled the top off her yogurt and waited until he took one bite of his sandwich. "You've been acting weird all day," she said plainly. "What's up?" Noah hesitated. "It's nothing. Just didn't sleep well." "Noah, your didn't sleep well face is different. This is your my brain is stuck in a loop and I'm probably about to explode face." He gave a small, dry laugh. She leaned in. "Tell me." Noah stared at the grass. Then slowly, almost reluctantly, he began. "I saw someone outside the banquet hall yesterday. After the party started, a boy. Okay, he looked like me. Like, exactly like me." Maya squinted. "Like a doppelganger." "Nope, not like a look-alike. It was more than that. Same face, same eyes, same voice. I'm telling you, Maya, he was me." She blinked. "Whoa. I talked to him. Just a little. He was going through trash. He was scared. I tried to talk. But when he heard my mom's voice, he ran." Maya sat back slowly, processing. "You're serious?" Noah nodded. "You think he could be your twin or something?" "I don't know. My mom always said I was an only child. But the way he looked at me like he saw himself, like he didn't know what to feel." Maya's eyes flickered with curiosity, then concern. "And your mom doesn't know?" He shook his head. "I wanted to tell her, but she was already stressed. I thought she'd just say I imagined it." "Well," Maya said, closing her yogurt with a snap, "then we'll just have to find him again." Noah stared at her. "How you said you saw him by the alley behind the banquet hall." "Right. Yeah. Then we go back. After school. I can't just walk out. My mom's driver will be there." Maya grinned. "Luckily for you, my driver doesn't ask questions." Later that afternoon, Veronica Blake sat in her small but immaculate apartment on the east side of the city, painting her nails a shade of red too bright for subtlety. Her phone buzzed. A message from Wesley. "Coming over in 10. Don't say anything to anyone, not even your neighbor." She rolled her eyes and tossed the phone onto the coffee table. Wesley always acted like someone was watching. Maybe he was right, too. Secrets like theirs didn't stay buried forever. The knock came sooner than expected. She opened the door and let him in without a word. He looked haggard, pale, stressed. "You look worse than you did the night we got rid of the second cradle," she muttered. Wesley glared. "It's not funny anymore." "It was never funny," Veronica replied, her tone hard. "It was survival." He dropped into the armchair and buried his face in his hands. "She's dreaming again." Veronica sat across from him, folding her legs neatly. "That's not new." "No. But it's getting worse. She's asking questions. About the delivery room, the birth. She remembers pain. Then lie. I've been lying for 12 years. She smiled thinly. Then what's one more? Wesley looked up, his voice thin and hoarse. I think she's close to putting it together. And now, something's off with the boy, too. Noah Wesley nodded. He's quiet. He watches everything. He's too smart for his age. And if he saw Veronica stiffened, saw what Wesley hesitated. There's a street kid. Someone he saw behind the party hall. Looks just like him. He told Celeste he was just stepping out for air. But what if he saw? Veronica's eyes narrowed. That's impossible. Wesley stood and paced. I don't know. But this can't keep going. If either of them finds out. You mean if your wife finds out you sold one of her sons to settle a debt your fake company couldn't cover? Veronica interrupted sharply. He winced. You always said we'd be set for life. She hissed. That she'd never know. That the boy wouldn't survive long enough to matter. Wesley turned toward her, his face hard. He did survive. And now he's back. Veronica's hand trembled slightly. She reached for her phone and locked the screen without looking at it. What do we do? Wesley looked toward the window. I don't know. But if we're going down, I'm taking you with me. That night, while the city fell into its usual hum of traffic and streetlight glows, Noah stood at the edge of his bed, holding a flashlight under his chin and whispering into the walkie-talkie Maya had given him in 3rd grade. You still up? He asked. Her voice crackled back instantly. You bet. I'm scared. Me too. He paused. But we're still going. Of course. Who else is going to solve your real-life family mystery? He smiled faintly. In that moment, he didn't know if Maya was brave or reckless, but he knew this. He wasn't alone. And whatever he was about to find out tomorrow was going to change everything. Some people say you get used to the cold. Elias Blake knew that was a lie. The chill always found new places to settle in his fingers, between his ribs, behind his eyes. No matter how many winter nights he'd survived sleeping near dumpsters or steam grates, his body never stopped shivering. That morning, he woke to the bitter air crawling beneath the sleeves of his hoodie. Singular. It had a giant rip near the stomach and holes where cuffs used to be. He curled tighter under a flattened cardboard box and pulled the fraying hood over his head. The alley behind the shuttered laundromat was his usual spot. Quiet, half-sheltered, close to where the corner cafe tossed out unsold pastries around noon if you timed it right. He sat up slowly, stretching joints that hadn't been properly warm in weeks. His stomach rumbled loud enough to echo. He hadn't eaten since yesterday morning half a banana someone had dropped at the bus stop. Elias rubbed his eyes and blinked toward the street. Then he remembered the face, the boy from yesterday, that strange, clean kid who had stared at him like he was looking into a mirror, the one who didn't laugh or insult or toss pennies like other rich kids sometimes did, the one who looked just as shocked as Elias felt. He hadn't imagined it. He knew that much. He still remembered the boy's voice, the way he had said, "We look exactly the same." Elias kicked a bottle out of his way and stood up. He shouldn't care. He shouldn't. Caring was dangerous. Wanting was dangerous. People like him didn't get happy endings. Or any endings. Really, they just faded from sidewalks into statistics no one read. But even so, what if that boy came back? What if he wasn't just some weird coincidence? What if he meant something? Around the corner, the sun started to push through the haze. Elias wandered toward the area behind the banquet hall just in case. Not because he believed in fate, but because, well, the trash bins there sometimes had leftovers from fancy events. Food mattered more than theories. As he approached the metal containers, the smell hit first roasted meat, old wine, stale cake. It made his mouth water and his stomach lurch at the same time. He grabbed a plastic fork from a half-crushed to-go box and fished out the least moldy bits of rice and chicken. Cold, dry, still food. He stuffed a handful in his mouth before anyone could yell. His eyes flicked up every few seconds, checking the street. Nothing. No boy. No reason to keep thinking about it. Still, his heart thudded faster than usual. He tried to shake it off. He'd seen faces that reminded him of someone before reflections in car windows. Mannequins with blonde hair. It didn't mean anything. Except that birthmark. He hadn't shown it, but he'd seen the boy tug at his shirt near the same place. He had one too, shaped like a bent feather, right above his ribs. People on the street called it lucky. Elias wasn't so sure. Back in the present, he crumpled the to-go box and tossed it back in the bin. He shouldn't be here. This was too close to hoping. He turned to leave, but footsteps stopped him cold. Meanwhile, Elias wasn't the only one haunted by what had happened. Back in the Whitaker estate, Noah was standing in front of the bathroom mirror, shirt lifted, fingers tracing the edge of his faint birthmark, the same feather shape, the same placement. He stared at his own reflection like he'd never seen himself before. "What if he really is my brother?" he whispered. He didn't say it out loud often, but the thought had been circling his head all night like a fly he couldn't swat away. A brother. The very idea pressed into him like sunlight through blinds, something he both longed for and didn't know how to handle. His whole life, he'd been told he was an only child, and he believed it. Until now. Why didn't Mom ever mention anything? Noah tugged his shirt down and walked to the window, looking out over the garden. His world perfectly trimmed hedges, private tutors, 5-course meals suddenly felt flimsy, like it could collapse under one unexpected truth. He wondered if I lived where he lives. Would I still be me? Elias took a few steps down the alley, heart racing. He didn't want to admit it, but he was hoping the boy had come back, hoping someone would explain what the hell was happening. But as he reached the street corner, disappointment wrapped around him like fog. No one was there, just a parked delivery truck and an old man sweeping crumbs from the bakery steps. Elias sat on the curb, elbows on his knees, fighting the ache in his chest. He hated that it hurt. He hated that. For once, he wanted someone to show up, and they didn't. His gaze dropped to the sidewalk. Then he spoke to no one. "Why do you look like me?" The words drifted into the air and disappeared like smoke. Across the city, Wesley Whitaker was sitting in his home office, staring at a photo of Noah as a baby. He reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a small, folded envelope. The paper had yellowed at the corners. A hospital logo was faint on the top corner. He opened it. Inside was a birth certificate with one name. No mention of a twin. No record of a second child. Just as planned. Wesley stared at it a long time before stuffing it back in the drawer. He told himself it had been necessary. A financial move. A mistake wrapped in desperation. But something inside him itched now, like the past was stirring in its grave. He had lied to protect his future. Now, that lie was walking the streets, and the other part of it was living under his roof. The school day dragged on like wet cement. Noah had tried to focus on math problems, on reading comprehension, even on the class hamster that somehow managed to escape its cage again, but nothing stuck. His mind was somewhere else. It was rummaging through trash behind banquet halls. It was staring into blue eyes that mirrored his own. It was asking questions no one had dared to answer. Beside him, Maya Chan was already plotting. She chewed the end of her pencil, her brows furrowed in that way she always did when she was constructing a plan. Noah had seen that look before last Halloween, when she figured out how to reroute the school's candy delivery system through the art wing for strategic distribution. She'd pulled it off flawlessly. This was no candy mission. When the final bell rang, she shoved her books into her backpack and pulled Noah aside. "You still want to find him?" "Right," Noah blinked. "Of course." "Then good. Because I have a plan. And we've got about 45 minutes to execute it." Maya's house was just a few blocks from the school, but her driver Leon was already waiting at the curb. He was tall, quiet, and always wore perfectly pressed clothes, like he'd stepped out of a black and white film. "Leon," Maya said as she climbed in, "we need a quick detour." He looked at her in the rearview mirror. "Your parents asked me to take you straight home." "I know, but I just want to stop by the Peachwood Banquet Hall. You know, the one with the giant marble staircase. I want to ask them about birthday reservations." Leon hesitated. "And Noah's helping me? For school. Community event planning. It's for extra credit," she added without flinching. Leon's brow twitched just slightly. Then he nodded. "All right." Noah gave her a look as the car pulled away. "Community event planning." Maya grinned. They can't say no if it sounds educational. The car moved smoothly through the city, weaving through traffic as sunlight spilled across the buildings. As they passed the outer neighborhoods, the roads turned rougher, more cracks, more boarded-up storefronts. Noah had rarely seen this side of the city, at least not up close. It made him uncomfortable, not because it was dirty or loud or unfamiliar, but because he realized Elias might have walked these streets every day, and Noah never had to. They reached the alley behind the banquet hall, and Leon parked beside the old loading dock. 15 minutes, he said through the open window. Maya saluted. "You're the best." She pulled Noah along by the sleeve. "Okay. You said he was near the trash bins last time." "Yeah, right back here." They turned the corner. Nothing. No movement. No shadow. No familiar face. Just the dull hum of a distant vent and the occasional flutter of a pigeon taking off from a fire escape. Noah's shoulders slumped. Maybe he's not coming back. Maya shook her head. "We wait." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." 15 minutes passed. Then 20. Noah sat on the edge of the loading dock, knees drawn to his chest. Maya paced, tapping her fingers together. He was about to suggest they leave when a rustle echoed down the alley. They froze. A figure appeared, slowly rounding the corner by the dumpster. It was him. Elias's eyes widened as he saw them. He hesitated, 1 foot forward, 1 foot turned to run. But this time, he didn't bolt. Noah stood. "Hey," he said gently. Elias didn't move. "I came back," Noah said, voice soft. "I didn't want to leave it like that." Maya stepped forward, but carefully, like approaching a wild animal. "It's okay," she added. "We're not here to hurt you." Elias's eyes flicked between them. "Why are you here?" Noah looked him in the eye. "Because I need to know if what I saw was real." Elias shrugged. "I don't know what you saw. You look exactly like me. So, I think you might be my brother." The words hung in the air. Elias scoffed. "Don't be stupid. I'm not. Look." Noah lifted his shirt slightly and pointed to his side. "Do you have this?" Elias hesitated. Then slowly, as if it physically hurt to do so, he lifted his own shirt. There it was. Same shape, same place, same faint birthmark, like a feather curled inward. Maya gasped. Elias dropped his shirt. Noah didn't say anything. He couldn't. Something tightened in his chest, not fear, not even excitement. Recognition. "You're not just some random kid," he whispered. "You're me." Elias's voice cracked. "You don't know me." "I want to." They sat together on the edge of the loading dock. At first, silence, then, slowly, questions began to pass between them. Noah asked where Elias lived. Elias said nowhere. Noah asked about family. Elias said none. He told them how he had been found in a paper box outside a community shelter, how the woman who raised him passed away when he was 7, how he'd been on his own ever since, moving, hiding, surviving. Noah listened, stunned. He had grown up in penthouses, taken private tennis lessons, argued about having to eat vegetables off china plates, and this boy, his reflection, had eaten from dumpsters. "How did this happen?" Noah whispered. Elias looked down. "Some kids are born lucky." Noah frowned. "That's not fair." Elias didn't answer. Maya broke the silence. "We can't leave him here." Elias stiffened. "I don't need rescuing." "I didn't mean it like that," she said quickly. "I just meant maybe we could help. At least figure things out." Noah turned to Elias. "Come with us. To my house. My mom, she needs to see you." Elias stood up, brushing off his jeans. "No way. Adults mean trouble. They'll send me to a shelter." "No," Noah said firmly. "Not my mom." But Elias was already backing away. "Look," he said, voice tight. "Whatever this is, I didn't ask for it. You've got your life. I've got mine. Let's not mess that up." He turned, ready to vanish again. Then Leon stepped into view at the alley entrance. Elias froze. Another adult. Noah ran forward. "Wait, don't go. He's with us." Leon raised both hands calmly. "Hey there, son. Nobody's taking you anywhere you don't want to go." Elias's eyes narrowed. "Why are you here, to make sure you're okay?" Silence. Then Leon added, "You hungry?" Elias didn't answer. His stomach did. They sat under a canopy of rust-colored leaves, tucked in the farthest corner of a small city park a few blocks from the banquet alley. The late afternoon sun had mellowed into a warm amber, casting shadows across the picnic table where the 3 kids sat quiet, cautious, a little unsure of what to do next. Leon, ever the silent sentinel, stood nearby, leaning against the side of the car with his arms crossed but eyes sharp, scanning for danger and giving them space. Elias devoured the sandwich Leon had handed him without saying a word. No utensils, no napkin, just hunger and muscle memory. Noah tried not to stare. But it was hard. Every bite Elias took reminded Noah how different their lives had been, and how unfair it all suddenly felt. Elias caught him looking. What he asked, mouth still half full. Noah looked away. "Nothing. Yes, something. I didn't know people really went hungry. Like that." Elias wiped his mouth with his sleeve. "Well, now you do." Maya broke the silence. "My mom says there are thousands of homeless kids in this city, but seeing it up close, it's different." Elias didn't reply. He didn't need to. The facts were written across his face, dirt smudges beneath his eyes, skin taut over sharp cheekbones, calluses where a kid his age shouldn't have them. Noah reached into his pocket and pulled out a small flashlight toy. It had been a gift from a long-ago school science fair. He passed it across the table. "Here, you can have it." Elias looked at the object like it might bite him. What am I supposed to do with that? I don't know. I liked it when I was little. Thought you might too. Elias shrugged. But he didn't give it back. For a long moment, the three sat in silence again. Then Maya leaned forward. Do you remember anything from when you were a baby? Elias gave her a look. I barely remember what I ate yesterday. No, I mean like anything weird from when you were really little. A name, a place. Elias chewed on the inside of his cheek. I remember being cold, crying, and someone picking me up. Not a parent, just someone. Was it the woman who raised you? He nodded slowly. Her name was Sandra. She found me behind a church. Said I was wrapped in a hospital blanket. Noah's breath caught. A hospital blanket. Yeah, like the striped kind with the pink and blue lines. She said I must have come from somewhere clean, but I don't remember it. Just her arms. She smelled like vanilla. He paused. Then she died. Noah's hands balled into fists beneath the table. He didn't know why, but it made his throat tighten. Elias didn't tell the story like someone looking for pity. He said it plainly, as if it were just the weather. But Noah felt the weight of it anyway. Maya cleared her throat. We need to show your mom. Elias stiffened. Noah nodded. She'll believe us if she sees you, us, together. She's not going to want some dirty alley kid showing up at her door, Elias said flatly. Trust me. You don't know that? I do. Noah sat back, frustrated. But you have the birthmark. That proves it. You said you were found near a hospital. What more do we need? Elias looked at him, calm but unreadable. I don't want to need anything. That silenced them both. The wind rustled the trees overhead. A family passed on bicycles. A baby laughed from a nearby stroller. Maya reached out slowly, tapping Elias's elbow. Can I see it again? The mark. He hesitated, then lifted his shirt, just slightly, just enough. The faint shape curved just beneath his rib cage, a soft brown outline of what looked like a feather bent mid-flight. Noah stood without a word, pulled up his own shirt, and stepped beside Elias. Same shape, same curve, same spot. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. You're twins. The world felt like it paused. Noah looked at Elias. Elias looked at Noah. Neither of them said it, but both felt it. This wasn't coincidence. This was blood. This was truth, breaking through the lies. But that truth didn't bring joy. Not yet. Elias sat back down and pulled his hoodie over his head. Okay, he said. Okay, Noah echoed. I'll go with you. Noah blinked. To my house. Elias nodded once, but only for a minute. And if it gets weird, I'm out. Maya clapped her hands. Yes. Finally. Noah smiled, but it faded when he saw Elias's expression. Because Elias didn't look excited. He looked scared. In the car. Leon turned the key in the ignition and glanced in the rearview mirror. All set, Noah and Maya nodded. Elias didn't. He slid into the back seat like someone stepping into a courtroom, not a luxury vehicle. He kept his hands in his sleeves and his eyes on the floor. Noah sat beside him. Maya, across from them, started planning out the exact order of what to say, when to say it, and who should do the talking. But Noah wasn't listening. He was watching Elias. And in that quiet space between heartbeats, he realized if Elias was his brother, then their family was broken, and he wasn't sure if anyone could put it back together. The Whitaker estate stood like a quiet fortress behind rows of ornamental hedges and white stone columns. Its polished windows caught the evening light and reflected it like mirrors, perfect, distant, and cold. from the inside. It looked like the home of someone who had everything. But inside the living room, Celeste Whitaker didn't feel like a woman who had everything. She stood barefoot on the hardwood floor, staring down at a half-empty glass of wine she hadn't touched in 20 minutes. The glass trembled slightly in her hand, though she didn't know why. She only knew something felt off again. For days now, she'd been trying to push away the dreams, the whispers, the gut feelings. Her husband told her to move on. The therapist told her to accept the past. But something else, something deep inside her, refused to stay quiet. Then came the sound of a car pulling up the driveway. She looked toward the tall front windows and caught sight of Leon's black sedan easing past the fountain. She blinked. That was odd. She hadn't requested a pickup. Noah wasn't supposed to be out with Leon today. She moved toward the foyer, setting the untouched wine on a side table. The doorbell rang. When she opened the door, her son stood there wide-eyed, hopeful. "Hi, Mom," Noah said, bouncing slightly on the balls of his feet. "I brought someone." Before she could ask anything, he stepped aside, and she saw him, the boy standing just behind Noah, hair wild, shoes too big, hoodie faded from too many washings or maybe never washed at all, skin pale beneath city grime. But it wasn't the dirt or the clothes that froze her breath. It was his face, his eyes, the shape of his jaw, the faint birthmark just peeking beneath the frayed hem of his shirt. She felt her knees weaken. Her hand reached for the doorframe to steady herself. The boy looked back at her with something between confusion and fear, like he wasn't sure whether to run or apologize for existing. Noah stepped forward, voice gentle. "Mom, this is Elias. He's not just a friend." Celeste's heart thundered. "He's my brother." The world spun sideways. She didn't say anything. Couldn't. Her eyes never left the boy's face. Noah continued, voice wavering but brave. "I saw him behind the banquet hall. He looks just like me. We have the same birthmark. He remembers being left behind a church in a hospital blanket, and—" He looked at her, his voice breaking. "You always said you had dreams about another child." Celeste stared. Elias shifted, clearly uncomfortable. His hands dug into his pockets. He didn't look like he belonged in this bright foyer, under crystal chandeliers and paintings with gold frames. And yet, he looked like home, like something she had been missing without knowing it. Her body moved before her mind caught up. She stepped forward, slowly, carefully. Elias didn't run. He tensed, but he didn't step back. Celeste knelt down not because he was short, but because her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Her hand trembled as it reached out. Elias flinched. She paused, then cupped his cheek lightly, barely touching him. Warmth. Real. Alive. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I knew it," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I knew I wasn't crazy." She pulled him gently, cautiously into her arms. Elias didn't hug her back. Not right away. But he didn't resist either. His small hands hovered awkwardly before slowly, almost involuntarily, resting on her shoulders. And for the first time in 12 years, she felt whole. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Wesley Whitaker appeared, phone in hand, voice tight. "Celeste, what's going on? Why is Leon?" He froze, mid-sentence. His eyes landed on Elias, on Noah, on the way Celeste was holding the stranger like he belonged there more than anyone else in the house. He went pale. "Who's that?" he asked, though his voice already betrayed that he knew. Celeste rose slowly, her arm still gently wrapped around Elias's shoulders. "This is Elias," she said, her voice steadying with every word. "He's our son." Wesley laughed once, a hollow, bitter sound. "Celeste, don't be ridiculous. I'm not. That's some street kid Noah found." "He's not just some kid," Noah shouted. The room went still. Noah looked at his father, eyes fierce. "He's my twin. Look at us." Wesley's jaw tightened. "There's no record of that. You had one child. That's all." Celeste stepped forward. "You always said I was mistaken, that it was the medication, the stress. But I remember. Wesley, I remember too. And you told me to forget." Wesley raised a finger. "Celeste, don't do this." Maya appeared in the doorway. She held up her phone. "I recorded everything. The conversations, the birthmark, the confession from Elias, all of it." Wesley blinked. What Leon entered behind her. "And I called someone I trust. They're on their way. You might want to start thinking about what version of the truth you plan to tell." Wesley looked around the room, at the faces staring at him, his son, his wife, the boy he tried to erase, and for the first time in years, he didn't have a single word to say. Celeste turned back to Elias. She touched the edge of the birthmark beneath his shirt. "Do you want to stay?" she asked quietly. Elias hesitated. "I don't know." "That's okay," she said gently. "You don't have to decide anything right now. But you're safe here." He looked up at her. For the first time, he didn't look afraid, just tired. The silence in the Whitaker home had changed. It was no longer the curated quiet of wealth and order. Now, it was loaded, like a string pulled too tight, like the moment before a dam breaks. Celeste stood in the middle of the living room, her fingers still tingling from where they had touched Elias's skin. She could feel it deep in her bones that he was hers, not metaphorically, biologically, her son, and someone had taken him from her. She turned toward Wesley, her voice steady but low. "I want the truth. Now." Wesley's jaw clenched. "This is not the time, No," she said firmly. "This is exactly the time. Tell me what you did." "I didn't." "Don't lie." She pointed at Elias, who sat curled in the corner chair, too exhausted to speak, his hoodie half zipped, his eyes scanning the room like a wary animal. "That boy is ours. I felt it the moment I saw him. So unless you want this entire house to become a police investigation, I suggest you stop treating me like I'm crazy." Maya and Noah stood behind her. Neither said a word. They didn't have to. Wesley slowly walked to the liquor cart, his movements precise. He poured bourbon into a crystal glass, hands visibly shaking. After a long pause, he spoke. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Celeste's heart dropped. She blinked. "Excuse me?" Wesley didn't look at her. 12 years ago, we were drowning in debt. The investment fund failed. That real estate deal collapsed. My father pulled out. I owed $500,000 to investors, and the lawsuits were circling. You never told me. You were in labor. Celeste. I wasn't going to drop that on you." Her voice rose. "So instead, you—" "What?" "Sold one of our sons." He flinched. "I thought it was only one." He whispered, "The doctors rushed you in. Said there was trouble with the second twin. Complications. They said he might not make it." "So you took advantage of that moment," I panicked. She stared at him, stunned. No. Wesley, you didn't panic. You plotted. You buried the second birth certificate. You had connections at the hospital. You let me believe my baby had died. He turned to face her, then finally, "I needed a way out. There was a man. He said he could make it go away. For a price." Celeste's voice cracked. What price? He looked toward Elias. That one of them wouldn't go home. Elias stood up. Every eye turned to him. His voice was barely audible, but sharp as glass. "So I was the price." Wesley couldn't meet his gaze. "I didn't know who you went to," he said. "That man, he said he'd place you with a family. He swore you'd be adopted within a week." Elias's lip curled. "He dumped me behind a church." Noah stepped forward, fists balled. "You let him go. Dad, you just gave him away." "It wasn't that simple." "It was to me," Noah snapped. "I was just a baby, and I still got to stay." "So why didn't he?" Celeste's breath came in shallow pulls. "You told me I was confused, that I imagined things. You let me think I was weak. I was trying to protect you." "No," she said quietly. "You were trying to protect yourself." The front door opened. Leon stepped in, followed by a tall woman in a dark navy blazer. She carried a slim leather folder and moved with the calm precision of someone used to handling secrets for a living. "This is Attorney Daphne Gray," Leon said. "She works with Family Court." Wesley paled. "Celeste, don't stop," she said, not even turning toward him. Daphne nodded at Elias. "Would you mind if I speak to you for a moment?" "Elias." He looked at Celeste. She nodded gently. "It's okay." He followed Daphne to the side room, in the living room. Celeste sat. Her fingers trembled, not from fear, but from rage. Deep, maternal rage, the kind that doesn't scream, but scorches in silence. Noah sat beside her. "I want him to stay," he said softly. She nodded. "So do I." They sat there together, side by side. Not as a family yet. Not fully, but close. Closer than they had ever been. Across the house, Daphne sat with Elias. She spoke slowly, calmly. "Do you know what a DNA test is?" Elias nodded. "It proves you belong to someone." Daphne smiled gently. "It proves where you come from. But who you belong to, that's not something a test can decide. That's about people showing up, staying." He looked down. "What if they don't want me?" "They came for you," she said. "They're fighting now. Not about whether you exist, but how to make this right." He didn't say anything for a while. Then I never had a bed, or photos, or anyone who looked like me. She reached out. "You do now." When they re-entered the living room, the tension had shifted. Wesley stood apart, quiet, isolated. Celeste rose to meet Elias. She knelt again, holding out her hand. "No pressure, no promises. But if you want, we can take the test. We can make it official." He looked at her, at Noah, at the space he'd never been allowed to fill. Then, slowly, he placed his hand in hers and nodded. The guest bedroom was the only one in the Whitaker mansion that still had real warmth. Not the kind that came from underfloor heating or imported rugs, but the kind left behind by time-faded pictures on the dresser, a rocking chair by the window, a knitted blanket folded at the end of the bed that still smelled faintly of rosemary. It had once belonged to Celeste's mother, before dementia took her words and the family placed her in a care home. Now, for the first time in nearly 3 years, someone would sleep in it again. Elias sat on the edge of the bed, staring down at the clean clothes folded beside him. A fresh pair of navy sweatpants, a plain white t-shirt, and socks that didn't have holes. A toothbrush, a towel, even slippers. It felt fake, too clean, too quiet. He glanced around the room. There were no locks, No sirens. No rats chewing the floorboards. It was everything he'd imagined when he was freezing under alleyways and counting cracks in the sidewalk. And somehow, he still couldn't relax. Down the hall, Noah was also restless. He lay flat on his bed, the ceiling fan above him spinning slowly like a hypnotist's wheel. He kept thinking about the moment Elias placed his hand in their mother's. How that one gesture had changed everything, not just for Elias, but for him too. Because Noah wasn't used to sharing. Not toys, not birthdays, not his identity. For 12 years, he'd been the son. The one with baby albums and homemade Halloween costumes. The one people congratulated at parent-teacher night. The one everyone assumed had it all. And now, there was someone else with the same eyes, the same mouth, the same mark under the ribs. Part of him still couldn't believe it. Part of him was afraid. Afraid Elias would take what had always been his. And another part, the deeper, quieter part, was afraid he didn't deserve all he'd had. Later that night, Celeste knocked gently on Elias's door. He opened it slowly, unsure whether to expect questions, rules, or lectures. Instead, she held out a cup of warm milk and a small plate with 2 chocolate cookies. "I wasn't sure if you liked them," she said softly, "but these were always Noah's favorite growing up." Elias stared at the tray. He didn't move. She smiled, not taking it personally. "You can say no. I'll just leave them here." He reached out, but cautiously, like touching glass that might shatter. "Thanks," he said. She lingered a moment longer. "If you need anything extra blanket, light left on, just call me." "Okay." He nodded. She left the door open an inch. And for some reason, that inch meant more than anything. Noah appeared a few minutes later, peeking around the doorway with a flashlight in his hand. "Hey," he said. Elias looked up from the cookies. Noah stepped inside awkwardly. "I was thinking, maybe tomorrow, you could come to school with me." Elias blinked. "You want me to, it might help, with the whole DNA thing, showing people how similar we are." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Or are you just hoping I'll help you pass math?" Noah laughed, scratching his neck. "Okay, maybe both." Elias cracked the smallest smile. "You really think your school's going to let some kid without papers just show up? My mom's already talking to the principal. Maya's helping too. She knows people." Elias looked down. "I'm not sure I belong there. I wasn't sure you belonged here either," Noah said. "But you do." A pause. Then, before he left, Noah added, "You can sleep in my room if this one feels weird." Elias shook his head. "Nah, this is good. Too good, actually." Another beat of silence. Then Elias looked at the flashlight Noah still held. "You afraid of the dark?" Noah flushed. "No, it's just for checking under the bed. For monsters? For dust and stuff?" Elias grinned. "You're a terrible liar." Noah grinned back. "So are you." Around midnight, Noah couldn't sleep. He crept down the hall, gently pushed Elias's door open. Elias was awake too, sitting by the window, knees pulled to his chest, staring out into the garden where the moonlight touched the hedges like silver. "You okay?" Noah asked. Elias didn't turn, just listening. To what Elias shrugged. "Nothing. That's what's weird. Nothing. No sirens. No yelling. No rattling subway tracks. Just quiet. Real quiet." Noah stepped inside, then sat on the carpet beside him. They didn't talk for a long time. They didn't need to. "Eventually," Elias whispered, "do you think I'd still be here if you hadn't found me?" Noah's throat tightened. I think we would have found each other eventually. Elias turned to him. How same birthmark, same face, same city. We were too connected not to collide. Elias stared at him for a moment, then said, almost without meaning to, You're lucky. Noah nodded. I know. A pause. But maybe now. You are too. That night, Elias didn't sleep much, but he didn't wake up cold either. And in the room across the hall, Noah didn't feel like the only child anymore. They were still strangers in many ways, but not entirely, not anymore. The email came in at 8:14 m. sharp. Celeste Whitaker had been waiting, phone in hand, staring at her screen like it might vanish if she blinked. When the notification chimed, she clicked so fast she nearly dropped the device. Subject paternity confirmation, urgent, sender Dr. Andrea Bell, Whitmore Genetics. She clicked, read the opening sentence, then again, then a third time. To be sure, DNA test confirms with 99.9998% certainty that Elias Blake and Noah Whitaker are monozygotic identical twins, born to Celeste Whitaker. A sob tore from her lips before she could stop it. 12 years of doubt, of buried intuition, of gaslit memories and long, silent nights replaying delivery room moments that never made sense. Now, with a single digital paragraph, the truth was undeniable. Her son was alive. He had always been alive. And he had lived in the shadows while she mothered only half her heart. Downstairs, Elias sat at the kitchen table, poking at the eggs on his plate. He still wasn't used to breakfast being warm, or plated, or offered without suspicion. Noah sat across from him, chewing toast and glancing up nervously every few seconds. He didn't say much. Neither did Elias. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. It was simply full of what had happened, what might come next. Then they heard her steps. Celeste walked into the room slowly, as if each footstep carried 1,000 memories. She carried no phone, no folder, just her expression raw, relieved, broken, and whole all at once. She stopped in front of Elias. Do you want to know? She asked softly. Elias didn't answer right away. He didn't need to. He saw it in her eyes. Still, she spoke. You're my son. His breath caught. The test he asked. She nodded. It's real. You're Noah's twin. You were born first. Noah blinked. Wait. I'm the younger one. Elias looked at him and smirked. By how much? 4 minutes, Celeste whispered, her voice trembling. That's when Elias finally looked her in the eye. You knew, didn't you? A part of you always knew. She nodded slowly, eyes glassy. I knew, and I let someone tell me I didn't. An hour later, the family lawyer arrived with the official printed documents, stamped and notarized. A copy for school, a copy for the court, and a copy for Elias, with his name printed at the top, Elias Whitaker. When he saw it, he stared at the page for a long time, then said quietly, I don't want to change my name. Celeste looked up from the couch. You don't have to. That's just one option. I'm not a Whitaker, he said. Not yet. I've been Elias Blake too long. Then be both. Noah offered. I'm just starting to be your brother. That doesn't mean I'm not still me. Elias gave him a long, curious look, then nodded. Okay. For now, Elias Blake? Celeste smiled. For now, but the moment of peace didn't last long. At exactly 1:37 p.m., Leon burst through the kitchen side door, holding his phone. You all need to see this, he said grimly. He turned the screen toward them. A tabloid headline was already going viral Whitaker family scandal secret twin son. Discovered after 12 years in poverty beneath it, a grainy photo of Elias walking beside Noah into the family home. Noah paled. How did they get this? Someone leaked it, Leon said. My guess? Someone from the hospital records department, or worse. He didn't finish, but everyone in the room thought the same name, Wesley. Celeste took a breath, then picked up her phone. She dialed the family PR manager, someone she hadn't spoken to in almost a year since stepping back from charity gala circuits. This is Celeste Whitaker, she said calmly. I'm going to need a statement. No spin. Just the truth. She hung up, then looked at Elias. This isn't fair to you. You shouldn't have to deal with flashing cameras or rumors. We can disappear for a while if you want. Take a trip, somewhere quiet. Elias didn't respond. Instead, he asked a question she didn't expect. Why didn't you fight harder? The room froze. Celeste blinked. What do you mean, when he told you your baby died? Why didn't you ask to see a death certificate? Why didn't you call the nurse or the police? Her voice caught, I trusted him. Your father. I was on medication. I'd lost a lot of blood. I was grieving. And then life just kept moving. Elias looked away. So you forgot me? No, she said instantly. Never. I buried it. I buried it because believing it would have destroyed me. A long silence passed between them. Then Elias whispered, It almost destroyed me too. That night, Celeste watched the evening news from the edge of her bed. Pundits were already speculating about lawsuits. Commentators argued about hospital corruption, parenting, child abandonment. No one knew the full story, and still, they talked. Her phone buzzed constantly. Old friends, journalists, distant relatives. But the only notification she cared about was from Noah's room, a single message on the family group chat they'd created that morning. Noah. We told him we'd make space for him. But I think what he needs is a room that's already his. Like mine. Celeste, say no more. I'll have it ready by sunrise. And as the city churned with headlines and hashtags, inside the house, two brothers lay in adjacent rooms, not dreaming yet, but for the first time in their lives, no longer wondering if the other existed. When Celeste opened the door to the study that morning, Wesley was gone. Not just gone from the room, gone from the house, his closet half empty, his phone abandoned on the desk, his laptop wiped clean. At first, she thought maybe he'd taken a walk. Then Leon discovered the offshore account access logs, and the empty safe, and the rental car. Celeste didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, she stood quietly at the bay window, sunlight casting long shadows across the polished floor, and said to no one in particular, he ran. Later that morning, Daphne Gray returned, this time with 2 more legal assistants and a small manila envelope in hand. She took a seat at the dining table across from Celeste and laid the folder down gently. We've traced several payments made during your postnatal recovery, Daphne said. All authorized by Wesley, all routed through a shell foundation that no longer exists. She slid over a single sheet. Celeste didn't want to look, but she did. Her hand shook as she read the recipient's name. Michelle Larrabee. Celeste went cold. I know that name. Daphne nodded. So do I. Michelle was Wesley's executive assistant for 3 years. Always a little too close. Always a little too available. She had vanished quietly from the company the same year Elias was born. Celeste blinked, her voice dry. She helped him. No, Daphne corrected. She brokered the arrangement. Meanwhile, in the guest room, Elias stared at the framed photo on the nightstand. It was the first picture ever taken of him and Noah together, snapped in the backyard by Maya, out with sunlight pouring through the leaves. Both boys squinting, mid-laugh. He hated how much he liked it, because part of him still didn't feel safe, still didn't believe this peace would last, that they wouldn't wake up one morning and decide he didn't fit, or worse, regret bringing him back. A soft knock came at the door. Noah peeked in. Hey, you want to go with me to the warehouse today? Elias looked puzzled. Warehouse mom's donating all of Dad's old inventory from the business. Says it's time we emptied the place out. Elias stood. You want help, I want company, Noah admitted. I don't want to go alone. Elias grabbed his hoodie. Then let's go. The warehouse stood like a forgotten limb of the Whitaker legacy. The company logo, Whitaker and Wolf Capital, still clung to the outside wall, faded by time and dust. Inside, it was dim, echoing, filled with the strange smell of paper, stale air, and regret. Noah led Elias down a hallway past filing cabinets and broken office chairs. You ever wonder if maybe you're lucky? Elias asked suddenly. Noah turned. Me? Yeah, like, even with all this, the secrets, the lies. You still got 12 years in a warm house, school, people who wanted you. Noah swallowed. I never thought about it like that. Must be nice. Noah looked at him for a long moment, then walked into a corner room and flipped on the lights. It was Wesley's old office, but the desk had been cleared, the drawers emptied, except one. Noah tugged it open. Inside sat a sealed manila envelope marked "Do Not Open Private." He hesitated. Elias stepped forward and said, That's the kind of label that dares you to open it. Noah grinned grimly. I was thinking the same thing. He peeled it open. Inside 3 documents, each crisp and official. A hospital certificate of twin birth with 2 names, Noah Whitaker and unnamed male infant B. A wire transfer receipt made to a private adoption broker. A typed letter, unsigned, dated 1 week after the twins' birth. She doesn't need to know. Tell her the baby didn't make it. I'll handle the rest. She's fragile. If she remembers. We'll tell her it was grief, medication, whatever it takes. This is the only way to fix what I broke. Noah read it aloud. When he finished, the silence wrapped around them like steel. Elias exhaled, sharp and bitter. He knew she'd break if she found out. Noah shook his head. No. He knew she'd leave him if she did, back at the estate. Celeste sat with Daphne again. If he's left the country, she asked. We'll find him, Daphne said. The FBI will classify this as child trafficking if you push for it, and you should. Celeste said nothing for a long moment. Then it's not about punishment. Daphne raised an eyebrow. Then what is it? It's about acknowledgement. I want Elias to know someone stood up for what was done to him. I couldn't do it 12 years ago. I will now. Daphne nodded slowly. Then let's start. That evening, Noah and Elias returned. The documents in hand, they laid them gently on the coffee table between them. Celeste read them without blinking. Her face didn't crumple. Her voice didn't shake. She simply said, Thank you for finding what I couldn't. Then she looked at Elias. You didn't get to choose this pain, but you deserve to choose how it ends. He looked at her, at Noah, at the house that was slowly starting to feel like something more than shelter. I want to stay, he said. No hesitation, no fear, just decision. And I want him to pay. 6 weeks later, spring touched the edges of Whitaker Hill. The last of the frost melted from the stone walls. A new hedge maze designed by Celeste herself was being planted at the north end of the property. Lavender, jasmine, and white rose, new beginnings. It was a Tuesday morning when Elias Blake sat quietly in the courthouse hallway, his name still stitched into the inside collar of his hoodie. On the bench beside him, Noah Whitaker bounced his legs nervously, clutching a small manila envelope like it held something sacred. Inside a document they'd both agreed to sign, but only one of them had to. "You sure you want to do this?" Noah asked. Elias nodded once. "Yeah." He paused. "But not all the way." In courtroom 3C, Judge Letitia Albright, a woman with steel-gray curls and piercing eyes, called the name Elias Blake Whitaker. He stood, walked forward, alone, though Celeste stood behind him, and Noah sat in the front row with Maya and Leon. The judge smiled kindly. "Your request is unusual. Most boys your age want to drop their old name and adopt the new one. You've asked to combine them." Elias nodded. "I want to keep where I came from, but I don't want to lose where I'm going." Letitia's face softened. "A wise answer," she said, then banged the gavel. Petition granted. Outside the courthouse, the press was waiting. They always were these days. But this time, Celeste didn't flinch. She stood tall between both boys. "Please understand," she said into the microphones, "this is a story about healing, not scandal." A reporter raised his hand. "Do you plan to press charges against your husband?" She didn't hesitate. "I'm not interested in revenge, but I am interested in truth. And I will see it through." Back at the estate, the twin boys returned to their new routine. Mornings together, school together, their own rooms but shared playlists, shared sneakers, shared glances when teachers called on one of them and weren't sure which. The world was getting used to seeing two of them, and they were getting used to being seen that way. One evening, Elias stood in the doorway of Noah's room, watching as his brother reorganized his books. "You really read all those?" Elias asked, nodding at the stack labeled Mystery and Mind Games. Noah shrugged. "Helps me sleep." Elias hesitated. "I've been thinking. Dangerous," Noah joked. Elias smiled faintly. "Seriously, I want to do something. For the kids who don't get found." Noah looked up. "You mean like a charity, maybe? Or a foundation? A name people trust? With lawyers, social workers, safe places?" Noah nodded. "You want to use our story, only if you're okay with that." Noah thought for a moment. "Then let's call it the Blake Whitaker Fund." Elias looked up, stunned. "Not Whitaker. Blake." Noah grinned. "Nah. You came first. Remember." Elias stared at him, blinking hard, then said softly, "Thanks." 3 weeks later, a letter arrived. No return address, no name. Just a single line in neat cursive. "You were right to choose them over me. I was never strong enough to be your father." Inside the envelope was an international wire transfer receipt, $5 million donated anonymously to the Blake Whitaker Fund. They never saw Wesley again. Rumor had it he was in Montenegro, or Bali, or running vineyards in the south of France under a different name. But none of it mattered, because the boys had chosen their own names now, and they didn't need his. Months passed. Fall returned. The leaves turned gold and amber. And in the new Whitaker home, now repainted and humming with life, two brothers prepared for their first public event together, the launch gala of their foundation. Celeste stood between them, adjusting Elias's collar. He fidgeted with the cuffs. "Still not used to this?" "You don't have to be used to it," she whispered. "You just have to show up. That's more than enough. Noah tapped his watch. We're on in 5. Maya poked her head in. The mayor's here, and 3 journalists, and someone from Good Morning America. Elias groaned. What did we get ourselves into? Noah grinned. Legacy. On stage, under warm lights. The 2 boys stood together. Same face, same eyes, different paths now converging. Elias stepped to the microphone first. My name is Elias Blake Whitaker. For most of my life, I didn't know who I was or where I came from. But I knew I wasn't invisible. I just hadn't been found yet. He paused, scanning the crowd. And now, I've been found. And I want to make sure other kids are too. Thunderous applause. Noah stepped up next. I used to think being the only child was the best thing that could happen to me. He turned toward his brother. But I was wrong. That night, after the lights dimmed and the guests left, Elias stood at the edge of the estate garden, staring up at the stars. Celeste walked out quietly and wrapped a shawl over his shoulders. You okay? She asked. I think so. You did beautifully. He was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, almost shyly, do you think you'll ever love me like you love Noah? Her eyes welled up. She cupped his face. I don't love you like I love Noah. He looked away. I love you as I love Noah. He looked back, and in that moment, Elias Blake Whitaker believed her. Some stories end with a bang, others with a quiet truth whispered beneath a starry sky. Elias Blake Whitaker may not have had baby pictures or birthday cakes, but what he found was more powerful than memory. He found belonging. And Noah Whitaker learned that privilege means nothing if not used to protect the forgotten. This story wasn't just about 2 brothers. It was about choices. The choice to hide. The choice to stay. The choice to fight for those who were discarded. It reminds us that family isn't defined by matching last names, but by showing up especially when it's hardest. And while Elias's journey began in silence and shadows, it ends in light with a name he chose, and a legacy he's building for every child who's ever been told they don't matter. But this story also carries a warning to the adults who use power to erase, manipulate, and discard. This is what happens when the truth grows up. Let's never forget. No child is too poor to matter. No soul is too small to be seen. If this story moved you, take a second to like, share, and subscribe. You'll be the first to hear the next story because some truths are too powerful to stay hidden. Until next time, keep listening, keep feeling, and above all, keep choosing kindness.